Hello, my name is Tom Brassington. I am a PhD student at Lancaster University based in the Department of English Literature and Creative Writing. My PhD focuses on gender and how it is performed within a branch of literature and culture known as the Gothic. I've been asked by your school to create some resources as part of the outreach work my department does. These are designed to support your current learning in English classes, to encourage your critical thinking abilities in new and accessible ways, and to give you a flavour of what studying English literature to a degree level can look like. The following is one resource on The Woman in Black, looking at the theme of memory as it relates to the text. To start unpacking this theme in the text, we first need to have an idea of what memory is and how it works. For the purposes of this session, I'm taking the perspective that memory is not fixed, which may seem both obvious and surprising. Our memories and how we remember are not static. You remember some things more clearly than others, and certain aspects of a memory may be remembered more strongly than others. Memories themselves change over time, with certain aspects of a memory being stronger than others at certain times as well. One way you could test this would be to write down a memory and seal it away in an envelope. A couple of weeks from now, return to that envelope and try to write down the same memory you wrote the first time. Chances are they won't match, but you can see how much they do. And even if you did get an exact match, you probably will feel different about the memory you're writing about the second time, which suggests that the memory itself has changed in some way. This is something you can do in your own time. We're going to do a simpler exercise here in this talk. The exercise I would like you to do as part of this session is to write down some stereotypical types of memory and remembering. As an example, I've written here rose-tinted spectacles, which is a phrase used to stereotype a memory that is remembered more romantically than the event may have been. Here I would like you to pause the video and aim to write a bullet point list of 5 different types of memory that you can think of. Now that you have your list, I would like you to expand on the bullets you've just made by writing down what those types of memory mean to you. What are their connotations or definitions? So by writing rose-tinted spectacles, next to it I would put things like romanticized nostalgia. If I wrote something like memorials, I might add somber or silence because these are things that I associate with that type of memory. What do you associate with the types of remembering you've written down? Again, pause the video and aim to write down 2 or 3 associations to each bullet you wrote in a sort of mind map kind of style. So the point of exercise 1 was to encourage you to think about the different ways that we remember and what each style of remembering does to that moment. 2 people can remember one event very differently, and this is because memories are not simply accurate recollections of the past. They are not history or a God's eye view of an event. Memories are infused with emotions, sights, sounds, smells, and other sensations and our responses to those feelings. A bad memory can make us feel sad or angry, which affects how we feel in the present about that memory. There's this constant back and forth between yourself now and the thing you're remembering. A good one can make us laugh or smile. More complicated memories, things that are funny now but weren't at the time, and vice versa, for example, also demonstrate how memories and our experiences of them changes. So if we can feel memories in multiple ways and have different acts of remembrances around different events, we also need to think about how there are multiple kinds of triggers for a memory. We remember moments from things we see, hear, smell, touch, and taste. Like you might be able to eat something and be taken back to like a holiday or the first time that you ate it. Your favorite meal might make you think of home if you're homesick. Likewise, we can be struck by memories without any apparent cause. Remembering a particularly embarrassing event that happened several years ago in the dead of night is a very common one discussed in online spaces, for example. We can illustrate this idea with another short exercise. Fetch some kind of object, an accessory, piece of stationery, a film, book, or game you might have to hand, and see what memories that object conjures. Write some notes on those memories and what stands out to you about them. I'm going to go through an example in the next slide, so don't pause the video just yet. The example I have for this exercise is this pin. It's a piece of fan merchandise from a drag show I was at in Manchester a couple of months ago. I remember the whole show quite well, but what particularly stands out is when the performer disappeared off stage and reappeared in the aisles directly to my right, and I screamed very loudly. There were bright lights. It was all very intense. It made my friend laugh as well. My scream did. So this pin conjures a memory for me where a sound, my own scream, stands at the forefront. And this kind of demonstrates how complex memories and our recollections of them can be. You'd think from this pin what I would immediately remember would be the costume it's based on, or maybe even the lip sync or performance part where the costume was used. But that's not the case. And what I remember is a personal moment of sort of emotional intensity. And that sort of shows how an image may not directly connote an image. Okay, now it's your turn. Find an object, see what memories it conjures, and identify the key elements of that memory. Do they align exactly with what the object sort of connotes? In my case with the pin, would you remember the costume and the performance that it was used in, or do you remember something sort of laterally connected to it? Like the first exercise, pause the video and hit play again once you're done. So I hope that exercise helped illustrate that memory doesn't always work in the ways we expect it to. I hope it made you think about how memory works and how we may use that knowledge to read the theme of memory in The Woman in Black. For this part, I'll go through an example of some instances of memory I found particularly interesting in the novel, closely reading them. You can do the same alongside me or in your own time with instances of memory you found interesting. The extracts I have up here all concern physical sensations caused by a memory. They are: I had always known in my heart that the experience would never leave me, that was now woven into my very fibres, an inextricable part of my past, but I had hoped never to have to recollect it, consciously and in full ever again. Like an old wound, it gave off a faint twinge now and again, but less and less often, less and less painfully, as the years went on and my happiness, sanity, and equilibrium were assured. Quote 2 is, perhaps I recall these sensations the more vividly because of the contrast that presented with what was to come after. As I said, what stands out to me particularly with these memories are that they have this physical aspect to them. There's a sense that his body is very firmly involved with the act of remembering. His memories are sensations woven into my very fibres, and that sort of suggests that memories are not something simply recalled in a mind's eye or like a rerun of a television episode. To compare that with a real life thing, I have a mild phobia of injections, and whenever I need one, my body produces sensations in specific areas on my arm that form a part of my memory of receiving injections, inspiring a slight fear. It comes as a little tingle. It's like memory is both a bodily and a mental experience in some cases. What Kipps describes here is a bodily form of remembering, and I find it interesting because of its demonstration of how memory is simply more than viewing something that happened in your past with a detached mind's eye view. To remember, in these instances in The Woman in Black, is to relive those moments with Kipps's body also engaging in that remembering. His body basically takes him back to that moment through the sensations it produces. We can be very physically involved in our memories, as what these extracts suggest about memory. The Woman in Black is riddled with this and other forms of memory and remembering. There are memories instilled in objects like Janet's letters and the haunted spaces of the nursery and the marsh. Likewise, there are multiple instances of emotional remembering where a specific time is not explicitly stated, but a sensational and felt response is produced. The whole novel is an example of this, it being a conscious recollection of Kipps's own experience as an attempt to reconcile with those memories and the emotions they've produced. Final exercise of this session is one that you can do now or after the last slide, where I briefly outline how you can get in touch with the department should you have any questions regarding studying English at university. In this exercise, I would like you to find an instance of remembering or memory in The Woman in Black that is not a straightforward recollection of a moment and perform a close reading. You should think about how that memory works and what is remembered in it. Think about what it might foreground. Does it foreground certain emotions? Are there sights, sounds, or smells that particularly stand out? Then think about what that memory does for the rest of the text. This is like a good sort of close reading exercise you could do, so you could probably write about a paragraph or a page on it or something. My example for this exercise is to look at the presentation of hauntings as forms of memory in the novel and what that does for the novel. Here I focused on the hauntings on the marsh, and they can be considered a type of memory because they're an event replayed for us that is something that happened in the past. But the experience of them is entirely audible, entirely sound-based. Kipps can't see the pony and trap sinking beneath the marshlands because of the fog. He can only hear them. So how does that removal of sight and reliance on sound change the experience of that memory? What makes it scarier? And like these are the sort of questions and the close reading that I'd like you to do, because they can tease out sort of interesting things about the text if you look at these like unusual elements of them. I hope this talk has begun to make you think about all the ways that memory and remembering are presented in The Woman in Black, and that it has helped develop your understanding of the complexity of recollection and what this richness may offer in your own readings of the text. This talk is partly informed by my own research and from conversations with staff and students in Lancaster's Department of English Literature and Creative Writing. Whilst I can't take questions on studying English in this talk, you can use this link to the department's web pages to find more information on studying English at degree level, as well as contact information for the department. Thank you for listening.